Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Ask Grit, episode number 42. This is a live program which we do every single week on a Thursday, 5 o'clock Melbourne time. To answer all your property investment questions, property management questions, property development questions, anything to do with property investment. Today we have Hasna from our Colombo office. How are you, Hasna?
Excellent. How are you, Navin?
Brilliant. Doing well. All right, so the objective is to answer these questions and so that it'll add some value to you by listening to those answers. All right, let's start. What have you got, Hasna?
Okay, so as my first question, I would like to ask you how strong is the property market in Australia right now?
Is there someone who has asked that question? Yeah, okay. Yeah, property market is pretty strong. It's especially last year has had a pretty good run. It's over 22% growth all across all capital cities. It's extremely strong. And the reason for that is the fundamentals of Australia is extremely strong. Low interest rates, the money is cheap, population is growing, unemployment is low at 4.2%. So these fundamentals are strong, and I think it will drive for the next 3 to 6 months as it is. And I mean, if you look at the past 30, 40, 50 years, it's been, you always get ups and downs in any property market, and Australian market is it's exactly the same. But if you look at the past 40 to 50 years, the average growth rate over the past 40 to 50 years is about 7% per annum. That's a ballpark you should keep in mind when you're investing in property in Australia. So that's what you can expect in the long term. You get the ups, you get the downs, but you'll end up with at least 7% per annum. So that's pretty strong.
Super. So I was talking to a client the other day, and he was inquiring about how his price will appreciate in the next 5 years, and should he be specifically looking at any suburbs right now?
Okay. So his question is what suburbs he should be investing right now to get some appreciation?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of selecting the suburb, what we do is we go through a rigorous process of doing all checks on the property appreciation over historically. What are the projects coming up? What's the rental yield historically? What's the outlook? What's the population growth? What are the infrastructure projects? We take all these, there's about 35 checkpoints which we do before we make a decision on is what we can recommend to an investor. Adelaide is a really strong area right now. You can get it below 500,000, which is not the case in Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane. At the same time, Brisbane is extremely strong. We have Olympics coming up in 10 years, and it's going to be a phenomenal growth in the next 10 years. So Adelaide and Brisbane are your best picks, but you cannot simply go wrong with Melbourne or Sydney as long as you invest in the right suburbs. So once we know the requirements of the client, we can definitely guide them through, but as a ballpark, Adelaide and Brisbane are the places to watch out for in 2022.
Right. So as a foreigner, he is eligible to apply for a loan?
As a foreigner, he can get a property. He can get a loan. What am I talking? He can obviously get a property, but he can get a loan up to 60 to 70% based on his salary, assets, and so forth. He can go between 60 to 70% of the property value as a loan from Australia by keeping the property as a security. So it will be mortgaged to the bank and showing their income in wherever they might be.
Okay. So another question I'm frequently asked is what are the stamp duties we are looking at different states in Aussie?
Stamp duty for a foreigner, is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so stamp duty varies slightly between state to state. As a ballpark, as a local, you pay about 5% stamp duty. As a foreigner in Melbourne, you're paying about 13%. In Sydney, you're paying about 14%. Brisbane, you're looking at about 12%. Adelaide, you're looking at about 11.5% or 12%. It ranges between 11.5% to 14% based on the state you invest in.
how does it work for a dual citizen who is working outside of Australia?
That's a great question. As a dual citizen, all Australia would care about is whether they have Australian citizenship or not. If they have the Australian citizenship, they can borrow a higher amount. They can. There are lenders who would give up to 80% of the property value, and then as a dual citizen or Australian citizen, as long as he or she has Australian citizenship, they won't have to pay higher stamp duty or FIRB fees. It will be just like a normal citizen who's living here, but maximum of up to 80% of the property value as the loan.
So when you're talking about investment options, what are the options that can provide 50% in return?
50%? 15%, okay. Yeah, I got a shock. 15%. If you invest at the right places, in any of the suburbs I mentioned, any of the cities I mentioned, when you exit, you can definitely get 15% per annum return based on your investment. You leverage the bank and put an investment of 40% based on your investment. Your ROI will be definitely over 50% when you invest in the right suburbs. And that's what we are here for. We will guide you through the process.
Okay. So can a foreigner purchase a second-hand house?
Can a foreigner purchase a second-hand house? They cannot. There is a body called Foreign Investment Review Board, or FIRB. That's the government body as part of the Australian Taxation Office who will authorize a transaction by a foreigner. So it has to be a brand new property. That's the number one rule. There will be few exemptions if they have a temporary residence visa or some sort of visa for them to live here. There can be exemptions, but as a general rule of thumb, foreigners cannot purchase second-hand properties, and the FIRB will not approve that.
Okay, so since these are all brand new houses, is the client free to customize it as they want?
Yeah, if it is a house, you can customize it. If you are building from the scratch, you can customize it. As we speak, we are customizing to a Chinese client according to the Feng Shui requirements. At the same time, you get different kind of ethnicities, and they have special requirements. So it can be customized. But if it's an apartment or a townhouse, those are approved plans by the developers. If it's a large project, major customizations cannot be done. But if it's a minor customizations, they'll try their best to do it. But especially if it's an apartment project, customizations are extremely difficult, especially the structural ones.
So, GRIT is a property management company. What does it mean? What does property management mean?
Yeah, GRIT is a property investment company, but we do property management as well. In terms of property management, number one is as a property investment, they want the property to be rented out. So renting it out, finding the right tenant, renting it out, managing it, doing the routine inspections, finding the right tenant for the right property is extremely crucial. It's not about finding any tenant, it's about the right tenant who will give less headaches to the investor. That's what we are looking at. And then as an investor, they want rental to grow as well. So we look at a variety of things. When we find a tenant, they need to have the capacity to pay higher rent as we increase and so forth. So we look at a variety of things. We do conduct a variety of checks to make sure they are the right tenant. And then we do the management of their bills. In case it has to go to a tribunal, we take care of that. So that whole list of things which we do in terms of property management, but overall, our intention is to get the maximum return for the investor.
And do you manage properties all across Australia?
Right now, we manage only in Melbourne, but within the next few years, we'll be all across the eastern seaboard of Australia, starting from Brisbane, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide.
Okay. So how easy is it to find a tenant to a house or an apartment when someone purchases a property through GRIT?
It really depends on the location. Typically, we do not recommend properties which we cannot rent out quickly. At the same time, there won't be any rental growth. So we look at a variety of things as we discussed before, and this is a key criteria where we can rent out the properties. Not every suburb is a good suburb. You need to find the right locations, right suburbs, in the suburbs, right locations close to all the amenities so that you can rent it out quickly. But as long as you invest in the right place, in the right location, typically it takes only 2 to 4 weeks max to find a tenant.
What kind of rental are we expecting?
That's a very broad question. Depends on the location. Sydney is different to Melbourne. Melbourne is different to Brisbane. Even in Melbourne, there are different pockets which gives you different rental yields. So it really depends on which part of you're investing in. But as a general rule, you're looking at about 3.5% to 5%, or sometimes it can be 6% of the property value as the rental yield.
Okay, so I think we covered quite a lot today. As my final question, I'd like to ask about the culture at Grit. As a potential candidate was inquiring about this the other day, and if you have any openings right now.
Wow, that's something different. That's an excellent question, though. All right, so culture at Grit. I think what we do is we have a performance-based culture. We have a pretty good unit who work like a well-oiled machine, and we work hard, we play hard, and that's what we do. And it's totally performance-based, and we enjoy ourselves. But when it comes to work, we just smash it around the park. So it has to be a go-getter. It has to be someone unique. It has to be someone different. We cannot hire everyone, unfortunately, but we are extremely picky in finding the right candidate. So happy to have a chat, and if you are in the same blood group, you'll be hired.
So do you have any current openings right now?
Yes, we do. In Melbourne office, we do have openings for sales roles. In the Sri Lankan office, we have openings for sales roles. You'll be going to Dubai, so there'll be opportunities there. There'll be opportunities in Mumbai and India, in that part of the world, but especially in the sales and the property management, we are looking for people.
So that's all from my end today.
Okay, let's see what else we have got online. Right, there's one more. I've heard about the interest rate rises in Australia. What are your thoughts about it? Yes, there will be interest rates rise. You cannot expect the interest rates to remain low as all-time low. Currently, the cash rate is 0.1%. Although there's a whole talk about interest rate rises, I don't see it rising more than 50 basis points. I mean, even if it rises 100 basis points, as an investor, your impact is not going to be huge. It's, I mean, as a local, you're looking at about 3 to 3.5%. When it becomes 4 to 4.5%, even if that is the case, your impact is not going to be drastically different. In Australia, there has been times interest rates have been 11, 13%. So you're far from it for that to happen. So my advice is do not panic. Investment is a marathon. It's not a sprint. As long as you're in for the long term, you cannot simply go wrong. And interest rates is just one element of the property appreciation or the property growth. There are so many other elements which will determine your appreciation. So those are my thoughts on that. As a suburb to invest or to land bank, what do you think about Warragul? Warragul is a excellent place to invest. It's definitely a growth corridor in the southeastern suburbs. When you go past Officer Pakenham, or Warragul will be one of the good places to invest. There is definitely a strong rental demand, especially because of the Warragul Hospital. There's exceptional rental demand. There will be good capital appreciation. Even if you are to land bank, if your intention is to land bank, make sure the property can be subdividable so that you can either do as a land development project, or uh, you can sell it to a developer, and you can earn a lot of appreciation on that. On top of the property appreciation, it's going to be extremely sellable because it's going to be gold for a developer to get a land parcel like that. So that would be my thoughts on Wargle. It's definitely a good place. Question number 3. There seem to be a lot of delays in terms of construction in Queensland. Is that true? Yeah, that is. It depends on the builder you're using as well. It's not about the builders; it's about the supplies. There has been a tremendous pressure on the supply, especially on the timber or the frames. We know the timber prices have gone up rapidly, at least 30 to 40%, and there is a strong demand. At the same time, supply is low. So there are some delays, but it's not going to be huge delays. So far, what we have come across is about 3 weeks of delays for some of the projects. It really depends on the builder. It really depends on the project where it is. But yes, there are delays, but it's not going to be significant. Maximum we have seen is 3 weeks. Okay, I think that's about it, Hasna. This is how we like it, short and sweet, 15-20 minutes. Before we go, having a number of events. Tonight we are having a webinar focusing the investors in Brisbane. That's at 8 p.m. Melbourne time, 7 p.m. Brisbane time. If you have not registered, if you would like to come join us, it's pure educational. You can join in for that, register for that. And we also have a physical event, a workshop, a property investment workshop in Melbourne next week on Thursday, the 24th. 24th, that's right, 24th of February. Again, it's all on social media. You can register for that too. All right, so until we see you next week, thanks for listening. Hope we added some value to you, and we'll see you next week.